my fellow running mates and I are just going to events, talking to people in the community, see how they feel, letting them, they let us know some issues, so on and so forth, and get to know as many people as possible.
Okay. Now, you've been quite the spokesman at the local school board meeting. What motivates you?
Well, as an educator, I'm a teacher for over 9 years now, and that's a great motivator. To me, it's not just a job, it's a career. It's something that I have passion in, and I grew up here in this city, so what motivates me to see these students not getting the proper education that they deserve. They're not getting the equality, and really they're not getting the opportunities that they really need, to better themselves.
Now, you said you grew up in the city of Elizabeth. Let's talk about your humble beginnings. Well, which elementary school did you attend?
First, I went to school number 6. From there, my parents then took me out of the schools and put me into Blessed Sacrament. I came back then and went to school 21 and 22. And then, sadly, because the schools at that time were very bad, my parents had to actually move out of the city, and we moved away because the schools were not what they should be. And so we moved out, and luckily my parents had the ability to move out of the city and to get me an education, a better education.
Okay. Now, you come from good stock. You're the youngest of 2 siblings from Pepe, the former owner of Madrid restaurant on New Point Road. Am I correct?
Correct.
How was it, being the youngest sibling of Pepe?
It was good. My parents grew up, they were immigrants, they came here. Even though we moved out of the city, we were always here. Like you said, at the restaurant, I was always working there. My parents always put us to work, which is good. They taught us, that hard work, fair play, and doing the right thing is really what matters. My father works at the Seaport. He still works there currently. They bought that restaurant in 1988, and after 10 years, they sold it to a different proprietor who then changed it, and now it's Mango's. But they've always taught me to work hard from the get-go. Your mentality. Now,
what institution of higher learning did you attend?
I went to Rutgers in New Brunswick. Graduated from there with a BA. I majored in psychology, Spanish, and marine science, a little bit of everything. Okay. Then I went to St. Peter's College in Jersey City, where I received my master's in education administration. I passed the test, and I have my principal's license. So, and right now I'm going to Carey University and getting a master's in special education, which I should be able to finish next week.
Now, after graduating from college, you landed a job in the Washington School District, am I correct?
First, I taught at Bayonne High School, 1 year, and then I went and applied and got the job at Washington Hills Regional High School. Mm-hmm.
Now, how was it like in comparison to Elizabeth School District?
Well, at the end of the day, students still need the same thing, whether it's in the city environment or in a suburb or so on and so forth. They need to be felt that they're cared about. They all have problems. Everyone has problems that come in. Whether they have a little bit, if economically they're better off in one district than another, they still come in with issues every day that you need to address and you need to teach to them, which is a big thing.
Now, you teach special education. Correct. Is that your area of expertise?
It is. Well, at first I was teaching Spanish, and I had a lot of special ed courses that I was teaching, and I just found a passion for special ed, for children who kind of sadly get lost a lot of times in the system and who need, extra help, who need, more compassion, more grace. So I then switched over into special ed, and now I'm going for a master's, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
Now, speaking of special ed, do you find teaching special ed challenging?
Yes, I think teaching in general is challenging. I find a renewed passion in special ed, and that's why I switched over. But it's challenging just to teach every day, correct? But it's a good challenge. It's what, like we say, we never get bored. So every day is a different day, and really, probably in all my teaching years, I never really dreaded ever to go to work. I look forward to going to work and seeing them every day.
Okay. Now, you ran for public office last year. However, you weren't successful because you guys got off to a late start. However, I notice there's a new vigor in you. I mean, this tenacious, is that your new approach going into this year?
Well, I learned a lot from running the first time, absolutely. Learned what to do, what not to do. It was really a learning experience. And yeah, we didn't lose by much. There's definitely a big movement out in Elizabeth in terms of the school board.
In education reform.
Correct.
Accountability.
Correct. So it's time. It's time, and when we talk to people in the streets and knocking on doors and so on and so forth, they're excited. And when they get excited, they feed into us, and we get excited, and it's a movement.
Now, what I understand, I mean, what sparked that passion to be involved with the school board? I mean, because that's obvious you don't work for anything, okay? You are a proprietor, as far as your family's into real estate. Your father, Pepe, still gainfully employed down at the docks. Your brother is well off. In addition, they say you teach. What motivated you?
It's just, I want to see this community change for the better, and I really believe it'll happen in the schools.
Now you say community, is there any particular community you're talking about?
Just Elizabeth.
Just city of Elizabeth as a whole, okay.
My heart's here. I mean, like I said, we moved out, but we came back, and I never really left the city. I mean, we were here working in the restaurant, like you said. We had a couple of apartment buildings, so we were always here. We never really left, even though, I might have lived in a different town. We were always here. And it's just so important. The school system is just so important. One of my favorite sayings that I say is that a bad community doesn't make a bad school. It's a bad school that makes a bad community. So if you were to change those schools, you change the community. And just seeing these children with hopes and dreams and desires, and then to be those dreams or desires to be stamped out, and they lose faith in the system, and then of course they come out onto the streets, and then someone's going to pick them up, whether it's a gangs or crime or so on and so forth. So to better a community, you really need to better the schools.
Now you have become somewhat of a local hero, if I may say, in regards to education. I mean, you have individuals like Maria de Rossi's, who from that previous that generation, as far as advocating for quality education. Then you have yourself, and you have a following. I mean, I've noticed it even when you was one particular event that you spoke at, and people would ask you a question. How does that feel, knowing that the people are interested in you, or do you perceive it as they're just trying to pluck you?
No, I don't see it as plucking. It's just there's many people who have come before me, like Maria, yourself, so many before that have trailblazed and who have made a path. And I'm just really following those footsteps in terms of just trying to get these people motivated to understand that we really can fix this community, that there really is hope. And even though schools and some parts have made some gains here and there, absolutely, but it's not enough. I think that we can just do a lot better, and the change is just not coming fast enough. They've done things here and there, but I just don't think they've done it for the better of the students. I think they've done it for other reasons.
Now, you emerged on Elizabeth's social scene last year. Since that time, you have undoubtedly become a voice of the voiceless as it pertains to the education issues. Why, like I said, why are you so passionate about education? I mean, you could have easily went and majored in political science because, based on my history with you, you're good at that, but you chose education.
Because I think education levels the playing field. In a world of many inequalities, for many reasons, education is really the way out. It's a way of just bettering people. And in this country, it's just education to me, especially, let me start again. My parents obviously have always instilled to me that school is the most important thing. That school. And here in this country especially, it's already hard enough, to get a job here and there. And without education, you're in a tough spot.
Now, Pepe, he migrated from Spain, am I correct?
Correct. Mm-hmm. Okay. So both my parents, correct.
Okay, so it was just your father migrated together, or?
No, they met here. So, my mother grew up in Spain, but her parents also took her to Peru. So she lived a lot of her life down there. And then they came here and they met, and they started a life here in Elizabeth. And like I said, my heart's always been here. I might have left, but I've never really.
Now, you posed some of the most interesting commentary at the school board meetings, and also in addition to your analogy. You're so accurate and precise. Where does all that insight derive from? Because, if you watch you at the school board meetings and your analogies and the comparisons that you use, one in particular, when you use the comparison, you equated to all the empty seats. I was astonished when you said that. It was so apropos. Even the school board commissioners, you caught them off guard to where as though they had to look at the empty seats. Where does that insight derive from?
Again, really, I think it's from my passion, which is teaching, which is to make sure you do your homework, to make sure you're well prepared before you go and do anything really in life. And then, again, with the teaching is being able to get people to see what you see and to visualize it and to be able to get what you're thinking, to get other people to listen. And sometimes the way you use words is very powerful. And I think in that analogy, it's powerful because it's true.
Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Given your perspective on the issues of assault, the alleged assault on Carey,
to me, like I said, it's under investigation. But if it were to come out that that were true, it's disgusting. It's one of the it just breaks so many ethical rules, obviously, and just to have someone people send their kids to school, right, hoping that they're going to be safe, they're going to be taught. You don't want to be sending your children to school and having to worry that a principal or someone is going to put hands on your daughter. And it's got to be horrible for that family to know that they sent their child to school that day, like any other day, hoping she was going to learn and then come home being safe, and all of a sudden she's allegedly attacked by a principal and so on and so forth, and then the cover up. But like I said, it's under investigation, and we'll see.
What would I tell you? What would your reaction be if I had told you? After 60 days, the DIFAS conducted their investigation, which wasn't thorough, and they found no grounds of child abuse. However, he's still facing criminal assault charges. What would your reaction be?
Well, I know they put him on administrative leave right away, which I thought was the right decision. They might have waited a little too long, but at the end of the day, he was out of the school. In terms of, like I said, I'm glad that he's up for charges, and you got to kind of let the court system work it out, and we go from there. So it'd be premature for me to really comment on something when all the facts aren't out yet and things like that. But once the investigation is done and see what they uncover, then I would be glad to comment on it. But again, it's just something that if it were true and if the circumstances come out, it's something that's very, very gross, very wrong.
Now, this is the question I wanted to pose to you now. At the recent school board meeting, you were engaged in a verbal sparring match with one of the members.
Correct.
Can you explain what precipitated that?
Yes, one of the commissioners has spoken very low of me constantly. I think he feels threatened by some of the comments that I make. I think that they're just. Well, he came at me, and I knew it was coming. For a while now, he wanted to try to embarrass me. He's always tried to, try to spin things his way towards what they like. And I think he was just, very angry, and he showed it. He came at me. He tried to peg me as a puppet for Lesniak and Bullrich and so on and so forth, and he really couldn't do it. And while he is really controlled by someone else and someone else's political agenda, so he was trying to discredit me, really.
At the conclusion of the show, I'm going to preview my viewing audience to some of the excerpts of that heated exchange. Now, you're somewhat critical of the formula the school district uses to declare themselves as one of the top urban schools in the country, or perhaps the state. Can you explain the formula they use?
Well, to me, it's a shame that they have to spend so much taxpayer money on propaganda, where if they're, I don't see another school system like this, that spends so much money on trying to prop themselves up.
You think it was a PR firm, huh?
Correct. And it's money that's taken out of all of us, even though the state, gives them quite a bit of money. I mean, that's money that we pay. That's money that we pay in sales tax, or money that, it comes from our pockets, no matter what. And yeah, the formula that they use is completely is just wrong, really. They say that the Elizabeth High School for instance, they say Elizabeth High School is the #2 high school in the state, where they use, I think it's U.S. News and Washington Post, I forget which one told them that they were #2. When you look and you do your homework and you look behind it, what it was is just how many people take an AP exam in the high school. And if you know that if you went to Upper Academy, all the students have to take an AP exam.
Okay.
So of course they get 100% of their students are taking AP exams, and they get #2.
Of Upper Academy.
Of the Upper Academy, right, of Elizabeth High School.
Right.
When you look further, you look into it, and you see that only 22% pass an exam. Well, it's great that they take AP exams, and I'm absolutely for it. They really need to improve, because, they're taking these exams, and only 22%, that's 1/5 of them, that #2 really should say 22%. That 1/5 are passing, and a passing is a 3, and really the colleges have to take 4s and 5s in the system. So they really need to improve that number, because while they may be #2 because 100% of their kids take the AP exam, only 22% are prepared, to take those exams, because the rest fail the exams, and that number, that's one thing that needs to be improved on.
Right. So would you think that it's basically a multi PR stunt,
Right.
And fabrication and distortions of the truth?
Correct. They're trying to pull the wool over everyone's eyes.
Correct. And then they've even got it, you see the trucks in the warehouse, they even have it on the side of the trucks now.
But you can't fool everyone all the time. And that time is coming, so.
Now, would it be fair to say the Elizabeth School District, like I said, is conducting a multi-public relations campaign that's predicated on fabrication, distortions of statistics, all at the expense of Elizabeth taxpayers?
Yes, absolutely. That's money that can go into teachers. That's money that can go into, upgrading, the schools. They spent $500,000 on Attorney Stein's report, and that's just to pay him, let alone how much money they, on top of it on the side that they had to pay their lawyers. Their legal team is very costly. It's money that could be going to the students. It's money that directly is taken away from instruction. It's not money that is saved up on the side or anything. It's literally taking it out of the classroom and putting it into PR. And yeah, a lot of the stuff that they put up there are lies, or they twist the truth into a way that, they try to fool people.
And Sonia, I was reading something in one of the newspapers some time ago where it said the Elizabeth School District spends more in attorney's fees than Newark. Double amount Newark, and Newark is was the first largest city school district in the state of New Jersey, and here yet we border Newark, and we spend double the amount they spend in legal fees and attorneys.
It's one thing that I've been looking into is what they've been doing a lot is that they'll prematurely move teachers. If they don't like you, they'll move you or get rid of you or do things that are illegal. And a lot of times then they'll get sued and they'll just pay, they'll just pay them off in terms of, how much are you suing me? And they just give them the money because it's money that really, that they're really throwing it away. If they hadn't done what they did to certain teachers, if they moved them here, moved them there, they wouldn't have so many lawsuits and they wouldn't have to pay so much,
And most of the lawsuits are settled, they're settled
out of court.
Out of court with gag orders, which most of them, the plaintiffs have gag orders. That's part of their settlement, contingent on they don't discuss details. Why do you think put a gag order? That's unconstitutional, isn't it? Put a gag order.
No, but I guess it's part of the deal that they sign, that they settle. They settle for whatever it is, and they just put those conditions on. If the person says no, but it's because they're trying to hide things.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a way of, if you're not part of their team, it's a way of how they get rid of you or how they push you out. It's either you're with them or you're out. And it shouldn't be that way because in a school system that has 4,000 employees, you can't just arbitrarily just get rid of people that you don't like.
Right. Now, Steve, you just mentioned brings to the next question. They have 4,000 employees. Okay. Now, you mentioned about Stein, Patrick Stein. He conducted an internal investigation on Star Ledger's findings about nepotism, cronyism, waste, and he didn't find none of it whatsoever. However, he didn't interview all 4,000 employees.
He didn't even interview, of course, he probably could never interview all 4,000, he wouldn't have the time, but his sample size was, how many did he interview? I think it was 143, which is about, it's less than 5%. And he also found that almost all of them had given to campaigns. I mean, I would love to see, so it's almost 100% of them had given. Right? They said that they weren't pressured or whatever, fine. But I would love to see in any other district how many teachers give to the political campaigns of their Board of Education. I would love to see that. So, okay, great that, they didn't feel pressured, but there's something in there.
Yes.
And he said, he actually admitted to it that one person felt pressured.
Right.
On top of that,
I'm curious to know if that person actually is employed, is still gainfully employed, or if that was some person that they just created, to make it look interesting,
Probably not, probably, for sure, he or she is definitely not there.
Yeah, and it's sad because at the end of the day, it's the taxpayers and the students who incur, this negative barrage of monstrosity that the Elizabeth School District has created. I mean, the last 6 months, $1.5 million paid out in settlements, okay, and there's about 90 more pending, okay, and then you have just paid Stein $500,000, $500,000 to do a PR whitewash, okay, which the taxpayers didn't buy, and then you hire all these criminal defense lawyers, okay, and then you, just before the mayoral election, you $100,000, okay, for what I call a political parade, okay. I mean, I'm curious to know, was that money set aside in the school budgeting, some of the state funding? Was that $100,000 they used for that parade? Was that allocated for that? I mean, I'm curious to know. I mean,
yeah, we'd have to take a look at their books, but it's just, it's amazing how much they just waste. They literally just throw away, and it just should not. It comes straight from the mouths of the students. I mean, every dollar that they spend somewhere else on PR or telling everyone how great they are is money that's taken out of the classroom, and it's just not. It's not fair. I mean, we here in Elizabeth, the school budget is over $400 million. 43 of that, about 10%, comes from actual, taxpayers here in Elizabeth. The rest comes from the rest of the state. And they literally just throw away that money. I mean, anyone can tell you, a lot of these schools still need a lot of money. They need a lot of upgrades. A lot of schools need air conditioning. A lot of them need heat. A lot of them, the cafeterias are in poor shape from what they tell us. Upgrade with security. There's a lot of issues here in our school system that need a lot of money. I mean, it just happens. There's old buildings that need refurbishing, and it's just they can't be spending that money. If they were doing what they were supposed to and everything was great, they wouldn't have to have the people. People would just know, and that's it. You don't have to show off.
And speak for itself.
Right.
Okay.
So we need to change. We need transparency on the board. People need to know what's going on, and on November 6th, hopefully Elizabeth will speak.
Okay. I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Thank
I
you
hope
very
you
much.
come back. Okay.
Yes.
But for the remainder of the segment, we're going to view my viewing audience to that heated exchange at the previous school board meeting.
Have been found to score exceptionally